Hi. Hello. 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 Coolman229 here. Coolman229 here. Coolman229 here.
And Angel189.
I'm with
Dracula.
For another topic of the week. Topic of the week. Topic of the week. Another topic of the week video. And this week is the 1-year anniversary of my topic videos. 53 weeks, 54 topic videos, 1 whole year of doing topic videos. When I started this, I wasn't quite sure if I was actually going to keep doing it, and I'm really glad I have. It's been really fun doing topic videos every week, and this has actually it's prompted me to post even more videos outside of the Shaolin Chronicles and Shaolin Showdown videos that I did with Angel189. I do want to thank everyone who has supported this and everyone who has sent me topics for the whole year. You have been a great help, and I could not have done this without you. Now, the first topic video I ever did was on Janie Springs from Borderlands, the pre-sequel. So I thought I'd keep this going and kind of make it a tradition. I'll be doing another Borderlands topic, but this time on Handsome Jack. This topic was submitted by Tumblr Anon, and they asked, how about comparisons of different viewpoints on Handsome Jack versus how the writers intended him to be seen? This is a surprisingly complex question for a few reasons. First off, you have 3 different games that feature Handsome Jack. Borderlands 2, Borderlands the pre-sequel, and then Tales from the Borderlands. Each of them feature Jack in different capacities, and, well, each of them has the writing of Anthony Birch involved. If you don't know who Anthony Birch is, he's basically the guy who completely destroyed the canon of Borderlands. He's a terrible writer. But I'll spend more time talking about Handsome Jack than Anthony Birch. So let's start with looking at Borderlands 2 and how Handsome Jack is in that. Now, different viewpoints of Handsome Jack is not really a whole lot, actually. Because you have the good guys, hey, Handsome Jack is bad. And you have the bad guys, Hyperion. They hate Handsome Jack too. Then you have all the bandits. Well, they hate Handsome Jack. Everyone hates Handsome Jack except for a handful of people. Mainly Nisha, since she's dating him and she's just as crazy and psychotic as he is. Now, there really isn't a whole lot of different viewpoints, but there is something to talk about his portrayal as the game goes on. When you first are introduced to Handsome Jack, I'm not talking about trailers that show him. I'm talking about when you're playing the game, the first bit of Handsome Jack that you get is when he tries to kill everyone, the Vault Hunters, on the train. The very, very beginning, in the intro. So you obviously it's obviously saying Handsome Jack's a bad guy. And when you start talking to characters like Claptrap, and then you talk to everyone in Sanctuary, you talk to Roland, you talk to Lilith, you talk to Brick, you talk to Mordecai, you talk to Zed, you talk to Tannis, everyone and even all just the regular people in Sanctuary, I'll say, Handsome Jack's the bad guy. So yeah, this is pretty much drilled into you from the beginning of the game. But with the interesting twist that Handsome Jack is not a serious villain. This is one thing that I absolutely loved when I first started playing Borderlands 2. When you first hear from him, he calls you up and he's like, oh, you survived? Well, that sucks, so I'll try to kill you later. But, by the way, I just wanted to say that I named a diamond horse after you. His name is Butt Stallion. Oh, and then he's eating chips, too. And this is really the establishing character moment for Handsome Jack. He is totally not a serious villain. He's such a Saturday morning, cartoon villain. He's just this super evil, psychopathic, genocidal, rampaging, mass-murdering monster, but you can't particularly take him all too seriously, and you're not really supposed to. Borderlands isn't supposed to be a super hyper dark, serious story. Though Anthony Birch apparently didn't get that memo. Now, so that's pretty consistent, but then you start collecting a little bit, and you start wondering, like, what? Like, okay, one of the earlier quests that Hammerlock gives you is collecting echoes, for, this, just a little quest, and you find out it's about Helena Pierce. Now, I played Borderlands 2 before I played Borderlands 1, so I didn't know that Helena Pierce was a character from Borderlands 1. And when you collect these, you find out that Handsome Jack brutally murdered her. And then you give him to Hammerlock, and he's just kind of like really depressed about it. Like, oh. See, that was the first moment that I got, was this... Really? Because it just felt... It felt unnecessary, honestly. And I was just sitting there like... I mean, we already knew Handsome Jack was bad. And I mean... And then when I played Borderlands... And I found out that she was actually an NPC in Borderlands 1. And then I played Borderlands 1, and I'm just like, I like Helena Pierce. And you brutally murdered her off-screen in between games? What the hell? That's not the end of it. I don't know what the writers were thinking. I don't know what Anthony Birch was thinking. But apparently, they thought that Handsome Jack was a little too likable. You see, one of the great things about Handsome Jack when you start off is that he basically fixes one of the biggest problems with Commandant Steele from Borderlands 1. Commandant Steele is barely in the game. She talks to you 3 times, and every time it's basically just Vault Hunters give up, and then that's it. She doesn't address them individually. She doesn't actually talk to them. It's just this PA system, basically, or sending on the radio, just be like, alright, give up or we'll kill you. And then when you meet her at the end, she's killed off 5 seconds after, or about like 20 seconds after you actually meet her in person. Great. On top of that, she's just so unrelentingly serious. It's not even like a comically serious. She's just serious. And it's kind of boring. She doesn't really have any flavor to her. Which is just something that was fixed very much when it comes to other antagonists in the DLCs, like, you know, Zed and, more specifically, General Knox, since he's really the only canon character, villain. Or even the Claptrap Revolution DLC, when, you know, Claptrap goes crazy and decides to take over Pandora and stuff like that. It's all done with a sense of humor that you're not supposed to be taking this all too seriously, which is something that Commandant Steele missed. So Handsome Jack being a funny villain, that's great. That's what we need. And then it's ruined. This happens when you go to the, spoiler alert for Borderlands 2. Well, I'm just saying this right now. And the other games as well. The Wildlife Exploitation Reserve. When Handsome Jack brutally murders Bloodwing, Mordecai's bird, and best friend, for no reason other than, lol, I'm evil. You see, this is that point in the game, that's when your viewpoint of Handsome Jack seems to be changing. Not because of any good way, not even because of any good writing, it's actually changing because of bad writing. You see, when we start the game off, we know Jack's evil. He's so cartoonishly evil, you can't miss it. But it almost felt like the writers, more specifically Anthony Birch, felt like we couldn't, he was too funny. Because Damien Clark is hilarious. And he even made some lines in Borderlands the pre-sequel sound... Excuse me. He made lines in Borderlands the pre-sequel sound funny. And that game doesn't actually have any funny lines outside of, 3? And Damien Clark's voice acting for Handsome Jack makes him a very, very amicable villain, even if he's completely crazy. And which is fun. It's fine. You know, we're going to get to the game, we're going to kill him at the end, fine. But it almost felt like they were trying to go super overboard with this and just make him super, completely dark evil. And then they killed, which is just because Anthony Birch was like, I want to be taken seriously as a writer. I'm a comedy writer, but I'm going to be writing grim, dark fan fiction because I want people to take me seriously. That's really why he did it. He killed off Roland, he killed off Angel, he killed off Bloodwing. He basically turned the entire series into some super grimdark fanfiction by ignoring a lot of canon because he wants to be taken seriously as a writer. Yeah, he completely screwed over Borderlands because the guy has absolutely no confidence in his own writing to actually tell a story, so he makes it grimdark because he wants to be like George R.R. Martin, like other great writers, right? Yeah. And this is the problem with Handsome Jack in Borderlands 2. When you're supposed to view him, you're supposed to be seeing him and go, oh, I hate Handsome Jack. But when that happened, I'm just thinking, who the hell wrote this crap? Because so much of the game is, and this is one of the things with Borderlands, it's not supposed to be super serious. Even the darker parts of Borderlands 1, there's still a lot of, goofy stuff going on that you can at least laugh at stuff. And in Borderlands 2, there's so much funny stuff in it. There's so many good jokes. And then it's just like, funny, and then something horribly, depressing happens, and it's funny, and then something else horribly depressing happens, and it's all Handsome Jack's fault. And I just felt like I felt like Anthony Birch wanted us to hate Handsome Jack and go, oh, I want to kill him. Here's the problem. This was established in the very intro of the game. We should always want to kill Handsome Jack. He's going to be a fun villain, yes, but he's also bad, and we kill him at the end of the game because we're the good guys and he's the bad guy. That's how it works. And it's not supposed to be complex, but, God forbid we ever let anything be simple in Borderlands. And then Handsome Jack just became so cartoonishly evil, and after Angel dies, basically because of what he did, he basically drops any kind of humor and starts being just evil. Just pure evil. Well, if you wanted us to see him as evil, congratulations. But we lost what made him such a great villain in the first place, was the fact that he was a goofy villain. But he was legitimately threatening. Now he's just threatening, and he's evil, and there's nothing else to him. And the viewpoints of everyone else doesn't change. Even when you find out that Angel is his daughter, nothing about him changes. Nothing about the viewpoints from the characters change, and our viewpoints as an audience, honestly, I was only bitter at the writers just because I'm not enjoying this. So that's really it in Borderlands 2. It's one of the biggest problems with the game is, it also really started when they started trying to make us hate Handsome Jack instead of thinking that he's a fun villain. We should be able to like villains because of their villainy. They should be villains that we love to hate. I love to hate Handsome Jack. He's such a raging douchebag, but he's so fun of a character. I want to see that. Honestly, one of my favorite villains of all time is Albert Wesker from the Resident Evil series. And you take a look at Code Veronica and Resident Evil 4, and even stuff like, I think it was the Dark Side Chronicles? No, the Umbrella Chronicles game. When you see all the stuff he's doing, he's just a raging douchebag. He runs over and he kicks people while they're down. He makes grandiose statements about how he's better than everyone, but he's also a threatening and intelligent villain. And combining those that over the topness with illegitimately threatening stuff actually makes him a really enjoyable villain. I love it when he's a bad guy, and you should be able to enjoy villains for being bad. I enjoy villains like Volgin from Metal Gear Solid 3 because he's such a good villain. He's just bad and I love to hate him. Handsome Jack should be like that, but he's not because of Anthony Birch. And you might be hearing me say that an awful lot because it's true. He pretty much single-handedly screwed over the Borderlands series because of his ego. And that's the sad thing about Borderlands 2. It's such a great game, but then it's marred by some of that writing, mainly with Handsome Jack. Now, Borderlands, the pre-sequel, was the next... Was it? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if Borderlands, the pre-sequel, came out first. I think it did. Alright, I'll be talking about that next anyway, considering that it's a, quote, main game. Now, Borderlands, the pre-sequel has hundreds of issues, and it's easily one of the worst games I've ever played. But let me talk about Handsome Jack in that game. Now, ignoring the complete kerfuffle with the canon of completely messing up the order of events that things happen, and outright completely screwing over all canon established in Borderlands 2, let's just look at Handsome Jack. Handsome Jack, in this game, I actually liked what they were doing at first until I realized what exactly they were doing. The co-writer of the game, and then who was also working with Anthony Birch on the game, it seems like what they were doing was trying to play up Jack's self-absorbed heroism. In Borderlands 2, he talks about this quite a bit. He talks about this in trailers. He talks about this in the game. Jack thinks he's the hero. He sees all the bandits and all the people on Pandora as just monsters. Basically, he sees them no differently than how people would view a skag. So, just, some monster that you kill and don't even mind. That's what he sees everyone there as. So he sees himself as ridding this planet of filth so that he can create a utopia. He's nuts. And obviously, he's delusional. It's something you also see with Nisha, who they think that they're this grand good guy, but they're complete psychotic mass murderers. And that's an interesting thing, and it's one of the things that makes Handsome Jack such an interesting character. He legitimately believes that everyone that he's fighting is some evil monster, and that he's this glorious hero. All you have to do is look in Borderlands 2 in Opportunity, the City of Opportunity. You see these murals and paintings and stuff of how heroically Handsome Jack stomped on the Vault Hunters and defeated them and stuff like that. It's like, he's delusional. So when Borderlands, the pre-sequel, starts off and Handsome Jack is like, man, I'm this good guy, I'm going to sacrifice myself. And at first I was like, alright. And some of the characters in the story were like, Handsome Jack did that? No way. And I thought, okay, but they're doing this to play with your expectations. Because Handsome Jack thinks he's the good guy, so he's going to act like a good guy in the most stereotypical ways. I'll sacrifice myself so you can get out because I'm a good person, and stuff like that. The problem came as the game went on. I started realizing that we're supposed to think of Jack as heroic. And one of the biggest problems is that the fandom basically took this as, Jack is just misunderstood. He's not really bad. He didn't really constantly commit genocide. He did. He's bad. He's evil. But the game, for some reason, tries to convince us that he's not really that bad, even though even in the game, he outright states that he hasn't actually killed anyone when he kills the Marif. But he only kills the Marif for trying to kill him, which was one of Handsome Jack's few good lines, is when he turns around and he shoots him, he's like, I was going to let you live, you bastard! Which is something Jack would say. He would let someone live, but if they slightly piss him off, then he'll turn around and, brutally murder them. But he's like, oh, wow, I've never killed anyone before. It feels good. And I'm like, wait a minute. He's already broken up with Moxie by this point. The reason Moxie broke up with him was because he was a mass-murdering psycho who set people on fire for kicks and giggles. And but like I said, this game completely screws over all canon established in Borderlands 2. And Borderlands 1 as well. But one of the things with this is that the game constantly tries to make you think that Handsome Jack is better, and it tries to... Here's the thing. The game tries to actually play this up as Handsome Jack is a hero falling from grace. And at the very end of the game, when Jack goes crazy in the vault, Athena says, like, and that's when the hero of Elpis died. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, Jack was never a hero. Oh, good gosh, he was never a hero. That's the point. He's delusional. It's not like... And he does a whole bunch of horrible stuff in the game, but then the game's just like, yeah, but he's a hero. And at first I thought this was just playing with expectations, and no, you're actually supposed to think he's a legitimately heroic person. And it completely skips over him destroying the Underdome, because we know from Borderlands 2 that he destroyed the Underdome immediately after Moxie broke up with him, because he's a vengeful psychopath. But in the game, it took Moxie trying to brutally murder him by sending him through a black hole for him to go, I think I'm going to destroy the Underdome now. All these little tidbits, the whole thing about destroying the Underdome for Moxie breaking up with him, that serves a purpose. We're supposed to see Handsome Jack as this guy who has absolutely no consideration for anyone but himself. as Moxie put it, if he couldn't have the one thing he loved, her, then she couldn't have the one thing she loved, which was her Underdome that she had built from the ground up. So that makes sense. He's a villain. But in Borderlands, the pre-sequel, the writers and Anthony Birch are constantly trying to make us think, oh, Anthony, he's not really that bad. He only becomes bad because of all the bad things that happen to him. It's trying to woobify a guy who's a complete psycho. And it's absolutely baffling. I just don't understand. I don't understand it. You can have Handsome Jack be a bad guy. You can work for Handsome Jack in the game, and that's actually something that I considered. I came up with a rewrite of the game that keeps a similar structure, but and similar characters, but changes it to where Jack is everything's different. But you write Jack in character, and he's going to be a fun villain. But if you're trying to change him to be a good guy who becomes bad, you basically lost one of the big things that makes Jack such a fun character. The fact that he's a fun villain. He's not a hero. He's never been a hero. He has never once been a hero. He thinks he is because he's delusional. He has these delusions of grandeur that he's this great savior. But he's not. He's just a monster. And that's the point. Even Borderlands 2 understood this. And that's one of the biggest problems of the pre-sequel, is that it tries to make you think Handsome Jack is better than he actually is. If you want to talk about the viewpoints of the characters within that game, this gets even more kerfuffled. Athena, when she's talking about him, portrays him as a hero. And in the game, and there's an interesting idea brought up in this, that when Roland and Lilith first met Jack, they didn't actually think he was that bad. I can buy that, because before he actually, launched his attack on Pandora and started slaughtering people left and right that weren't, psychos and bandits, I could see them being like, oh, we don't mind him coming in here. We don't mind the Hyperion Hyperion Corporation coming in, as long as they don't, try to, do what Atlas did. And guess what? They tried to do what Atlas did. So I can see that at first, but the way the game portrays it is that Roland and Lilith basically set up everything. Yeah, they set up his entire robot army. And then they betray him, and then that's what makes him go crazy, and then these characters trusted him, which makes sense. And Lilith, in the present time, who's not really Lilith, just this ridiculously out of character version of Lilith that's a complete murderous monster, who sees Jack as nothing but a monster, which is true. But the game tries to make her out to be completely wrong in that. It's one of those things where it's like the movie Maleficent. That's what this is like. You take a villain who is completely evil, and they try to give you this backstory on them that makes them out to be, oh, well, they only became bad because of all the horrible things that they suffered. And yes, Borderlands 2 already implies that Jack had a horribly abusive childhood. But, the pre-sequel tries to make you think, oh, well, he's not really that bad. And then it constantly goes back and forth between he's this completely evil psycho, which is more in character, and then he's this hero. And you can't flip-flop like that without it actually serving a purpose. And it doesn't serve a purpose except to go, well, Handsome Jack's not that bad. He's really just a guy who was down on his luck. Honestly, it's just thinking about the pre-sequel hurts my brain sometimes. But the viewpoints of Jack in that game are basically either he's a hero or he's a killer. A monster who doesn't deserve any sympathy, which he really doesn't, especially with what he did to Angel. And the game even tries to play it up like he actually... I think it has a few lines about him caring about Angel. Which is kind of weird, because he does care about Angel in his own demented, twisted way. Now, I think that's about it for the pre-sequel, really. He's just... The game tries to convince you that he's better than he actually is. Now, for Tales from the Borderland, this is a pile of crap that I really wish I hadn't played, but I did. But I played it. I bought the game before it came out. Now, episode 1, which is the only good episode in Tales from the Borderlands, we're introduced to Jack at the very, very end. It hints to us that, you know, stuff was going on between Nakayama that we see, and then with Reese putting the little chip thing in his head, and then that causes him to, at the very end of the episode, to start seeing a hologram AI version of Handsome Jack. Now, Handsome Jack in this game, now it's weird because it's never really built up on that Reese actually did kind of idolize Handsome Jack, mainly because he seems fairly ignorant of what Jack actually did. The problem with that is that the game basically acts... We never really get to see Reese's character, especially since it's a choice-based game by Telltale Games. You know, we don't actually get to see any real character development from Reese on that. We don't actually get to see him, you know, idolize him, because you can choose to hate him from the very beginning, which is what I did. You can choose to be, you know, say screw off every time he shows up, which I did every single time. Handsome Jack is probably one of the funniest things in the entire game, and is one of the few decent things because everything else ends up going to crap. His portrayal wasn't so bad because a lot of characters do talk about how horrible he was, and it's kind of weird because they talk about, you know, Reese being like Handsome Jack, and it's kind of weird because outside of when he, at the beginning, when he talked about wanting to be like Handsome Jack, he was not like Handsome Jack at all. I mean, I guess unless you were like a complete douchebag, but this is a choice-based game by Telltale Games. You know, it's, if you don't make those decisions and they still treat you the same way, it's just... But I guess you can side with Handsome Jack, but there's always this underlying like feeling that the game sides against Handsome Jack, which it should, because Handsome Jack's always been the villain. We get a little bit of... The only really good thing in this game that gave us any different viewpoint of Handsome Jack is when you're in his office and you're looking at all the stuff, and he starts talking about, like, he talks about, you know, how wondering about what happened to Angel. Because I like the idea that Jack, in his mind, thinks that he loves Angel, that he's doing everything for his little princess. But he's torturing her and putting her through years and years of hell to fulfill his own personal goals. Another thing is when you see Nisha's old hat on his list of things he's proud of, on his wall of things he's proud of, and he talks fondly about how much he loved Nisha, and I'm like, oh, and you know, if there's one thing that I would have liked to see a positive element from Jack is this sort of thing, because we never actually got details on his relationship with Angel, his relationship with Nisha. We never actually really got a whole lot about that, so that was actually nice to see. And then of course he turns into a complete evil monster after that for no reason, and suddenly knows everything that happened, despite the fact that 5 minutes ago he didn't know. This game was written by Anthony Birch. Expect nothing less. Now, the viewpoints in this game are, well, obviously, the Hyperion people don't see him as that bad, but the Pandora people see him as horrible. Nah, that's pretty accurate, except for the fact that, you know, we saw the way Handsome Jack treated his own employees, and there's no way anyone would like him. I like the idea that Reese sort of, idolized him at first, but of course the game doesn't really do anything with that, especially if you can choose to not like him from the very beginning. I mean, the problems with Tales from the Borderland don't really center on Handsome Jack so much as just, well, everything else. Handsome Jack is portrayed in a pretty decent way, especially considering that this is merely an AI replica of Jack made by Nakayama, which is actually a plotline that's set up in the pre-sequel. So, really, Jack isn't that bad. It's just that he's in a really awful story. And honestly, that's kind of how it was in Borderlands 2. Jack is a decent character stuck in a game that basically doesn't know how to work with it. But there's one thing I also want to talk about when it comes to Handsome Jack, and this is something of a side point to all of this, is that for some reason Gearbox just absolutely obsesses over Handsome Jack. Borderlands 2, he was the main villain, but then they made him one of the major characters in the pre-sequel, and then they made him a constant part in Tales from the Borderlands, and guys, give it a rest. Handsome Jack was cool in Borderlands 2. We don't need to have him be in everything. If you bring him back in Borderlands 3, I'll be really annoyed. But really, the problem with the Borderlands games is that, bad writing infects them, and Handsome Jack, being such a popular character, was brought back. Unfortunately, they never actually treated him the way he should have been treated. Because you have, in some cases, they demonize him, which is right to a degree, but he's also supposed to be funny. And he was funny in Tales from the Borderland, and that's one of the few things that I actually like about the game, especially when he just randomly will just pop up with a random joke, like Reese is running, and he's like, why am I running when I can fly? And it's just like... But overall, it really... Anthony Burch's writing really just kind of messed everything up. The games, a lot of times, kind of... Borderlands 2 had it right from the perspectives, but all the other games start messing with things, especially the pre-sequel. The pre-sequel is by far the worst offender when it comes to viewpoints of Handsome Jack, because it actually tries to convince us that Jack was, in some capacity, actually a good guy. It's annoying as hell, because I want to like Handsome Jack, and I like Handsome Jack. He's just never really written quite right. Well, I think that's about it for today, and I do thank you for watching my 1-year anniversary topic video. You can check out my original topic video here, and I do have a playlist of all of the topic videos that I've done so far. If you want to watch last week's topic video, you can check that out here. And if you want to watch next week's topic video, you can check that out here. If you want to submit a topic, you can submit it to me on Tumblr or YouTube. If you're on YouTube, you can just simply comment below. If you're on Tumblr, send me an ask that says topic, and then whatever you want me to talk about. Just make sure that you follow the rules that I'll be posting below, and that it's about something fictional, a game, a movie, a TV show, a book, a series, yada, 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 yada. And it's, it can be stuff about it, it can be stuff in the story. It's just about something like that. Because I don't want to talk about any real-world topics. So, thank you for watching, and tune in next week for my next topic of the week video. Thank you for watching.